So picture this. You're standing right in the middle of a muddy estate housing project.
Right, total chaos, mud everywhere.
Exactly. Mud everywhere. And right in front of you is this massive machine, an EX250 CCAT excavator.
Oh, wow. Yeah, those things are absolute beasts.
They really are. But this one, it's completely dead in the earth. The bucket is just buried deep in the mud, refusing to lift.
Just stuck fast.
Yeah, and you can actually hear the hydraulics screaming under the strain. There's this gut-wrenching groan of metal scraping against mud and then just complete silence.
Which is the absolute worst sound you can hear on a work site.
It really is. Progress on the entire site just completely halts. The logistical chain has snapped. The trucks waiting to move the dirt, they're just idling.
And the crews are probably just standing around with nothing to do.
Exactly. The foundation crews are just waiting. This isn't just a broken machine, you know. It's like a catastrophic systemic failure.
Yeah, and the immediate reaction of the crew on the ground, well, it tells you everything you need to know about modern industrial organization. Because they gather around this stalled beast, and they don't look for a toolbox.
No, they don't.
They look up the chain of command. I mean, they immediately conclude that to fix an excavator of this complexity, they need an official certified engineer.
Right. They defer to the experts, but the problem is the only personnel with that specific clearance are sitting in an office in Delhi.
Or even worse, the manufacturer specialists are all the way in Japan.
Yeah, in Japan. So we're talking about a week of delays, minimum. A week of just skyrocketing costs, blown deadlines, and utter chaos for the project management.
It's a logistical nightmare.
It really is. And that brings us to the mission for today's deep dive. We're looking at a fascinating first-hand account titled The Field Officer Who Tamed the Beast.
Such a great title, by the way.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack this micro moment that exposes, honestly, massive macro systems. We're looking at how a single observer, a field officer, stepped into that mud and just bypassed the entire global hierarchy.
And he solved an impossible crisis in a matter of minutes.
Right. And his actual job description was logistics, not maintenance, which makes this whole narrative just a profound case study on the paralysis of hyper-specialization.
Yeah, I mean, we are really looking at the friction between rigid organizational structures, you know, what we might call the official machinery.
Right, the official machinery.
And how that clashes with the messy, completely unpredictable reality of a physical work site.
So let's start with that paralysis, right? Because the bucket is stuck, the hydraulics have given up, and the workers immediately defer to that official machinery of the world.
They completely bypass any thought of localized problem solving.
But I kind of have to challenge this premise because, okay, let's unpack this. We're talking about seasoned operators and laborers.
Right, guys who've been doing this for years.
Exactly. These men live and breathe the dust of this worksite. They hear the engine of that exact EX250 CAT every single day.
They know it intimately.
So, are they actually incapable of troubleshooting a stalled hydraulic arm? Or is there like a psychological barrier at play here? It's almost like when your computer crashes at work and your whole department just stops working, waiting days for IT.
Even if the fix might just be a simple reboot.
Right. You just sit there helplessly. Why are they so paralyzed? Has the system trained them to be helpless outside their specific roles?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it is almost entirely a psychological and structural barrier.
Yeah.
And it's rooted deeply in the history of industrial management.
Okay. How so?
If you trace the genealogy of the modern worksite, you land squarely on Frederick Winslow Taylor.
Oh, right. The Taylorism guy.
Exactly. His 1911 framework, The Principles of Scientific Management. Taylorism fundamentally redesigned labor by stripping decision-making power away from the worker on the floor.
Or in this case, the worker in the mud.
Right, in the mud.
Yeah.
And it transfers that power entirely to a managerial and engineering class. The system intentionally separates the brain from the muscle.
So the system is actively designed to de-skill the operator. Like the operator is supposed to pull the lever but absolutely not understand the fluid dynamics of the hydraulic pump connected to it.
Precisely. It is the exact opposite of holistic craftsmanship.
Wow.
And in a highly structured corporate environment, strict hierarchies create strict silos of liability.
Ah, liability. That's the magic word, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If you cross into a silo that isn't yours, say, a machine operator attempts to bleed a hydraulic line or change a complex articulation joint.
You own the consequences.
Exactly. You assume the entirety of the financial and legal liability if things go wrong. We often call this learned helplessness in organizational psychology.
But in a high-stakes environment like a multi-million dollar estate project, it's actually a highly rational survival mechanism.
Exactly. They aren't stupid. The workers are terrified of the liability matrix.
That structural reality creates such a fascinating paradox. The system is designed to minimize risk by concentrating authority in the hands of certified experts, right?
No.
The guys in Delhi or Japan.
Right, the official experts.
But the fatal flaw of that system is exposed. The second reality deviates from the laboratory conditions the machine was designed in.
Yeah, because the geographic and bureaucratic gap between the problem and the certified solution becomes an artificial barrier to action.
The structure designed to protect the project basically guarantees its failure.
It really highlights the extreme fragility of hyperspecialization. I mean, a system that requires a diagnostic from Japan to fix a bucket of mud in India is deeply unresilient.
Oh, completely. It reminds me of Nassim Nicholas Taleb's work.
Oh, right, anti-fragility.
Yeah, exactly. When you optimize a system for maximum theoretical efficiency and compliance, you strip away its ability to handle localized shocks.
Right, because the official machinery is fundamentally rigid.
It's rigid. But reality, however, is incredibly messy and demands immediate localized adaptation.
Which perfectly sets up the disruption of that paralysis in our story.
Yes. Okay, so the workers are trapped. They're staring at this dead excavator, mentally preparing for a week of lost wages and delayed schedules.
It's a very tense scene.
Extremely tense. And just when it seems the project is doomed, someone entirely unexpected walks into this tense circle, the author's father.
The field officer.
The field officer. And the text makes a very distinct point of emphasizing his role. He is expected to oversee management, not turn wrenches.
Right, he handles clipboards, logistics, supply chains. He is explicitly not part of the mechanical maintenance silo.
Yet he completely shatters that boundary. He carries himself with this calm authority, and he walks right up to the machine.
Which is already breaking protocol.
Huge breach of protocol. Here's where it gets really interesting. He crouches down in the mud near the massive articulation joints of the bucket. He touches the grease on the joints.
Yeah.
He actually rubs the grease between his fingers and frowns. Contrast that title of field officer with his physical actions. He doesn't consult a manual or call a hotline.
No, he doesn't.
He uses sensory, tactile feedback to diagnose a massive piece of heavy machinery.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're touching on the epistemological core of this event.
Meaning how we know what we know.
Exactly. The philosopher Michael Polanyi coined this term, tacit knowledge.
Just that knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the kind of knowledge that is deeply rooted in personal experience, sensory input, and physical context.
Stuff you can't easily write down in a manual.
Right. It's incredibly difficult to transfer to another person just by writing it out. It is the exact opposite of the explicit theoretical knowledge you'd find in a diagnostic manual from Tokyo.
So the field officer isn't looking for an error code on a screen. He is literally reading the environment.
He's feeling for thermal degradation. He's feeling for the grit of silica dust embedded in the lubricant.
He is feeling the physical breakdown of the machine's defenses. But man, the cinematic tension in this moment is palpable. The source notes that the workers actually stiffen and freeze when he does this.
Because it's highly unusual.
It's crazy unusual for a logistics guy to get this close to the dirt in the machine. And frankly, I understand their anxiety.
Oh, sure.
If I'm a site manager and I see a field officer bypassing protocol to diagnose a $1 million piece of heavy equipment by rubbing grease on his fingers, I'm thinking, this guy is a massive liability.
Right, because rogue maintenance is how machines get permanently destroyed.
Yeah.
Or worse, workers get killed.
Exactly. So why didn't they stop him?
Well, that is the exact tension between de jure authority and epistemic authority.
De jure meaning official authority.
Yes, authority granted by title and position. The certified engineers have that. But epistemic authority is authority derived from actual demonstrable knowledge and mastery.
I see. So the field officer is attempting to assert epistemic authority in a space where he possesses absolutely zero de jure authority.
Precisely. And if his diagnosis is incorrect, he doesn't just fail to fix the machine, he loses all credibility.
He becomes the arrogant manager who played mechanic and caused catastrophic damage. No wonder the workers freeze. They are witnessing a massive professional gamble.
It's a huge gamble.
But the gamble moves from diagnosis to intervention very quickly. Because identifying the problem is only half the battle, right? Giving the audacious orders to fix it is where the real friction happens.
Oh, absolutely.
He stands up from the mud, and he doesn't just offer a friendly suggestion. He delivers a highly specific prescription. The source says his voice was steady and precise.
Leaving no room for doubt.
None. He gives 4 rapid commands. Support the bucket. Inspect the grease. Wipe it off. Apply grade 2 grease.
It is a surgical intervention delivered with absolute conviction.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I want to spend some serious time on the mechanics of this prescription, because this isn't just a lucky guess. The text highlights the physics involved here.
Yeah, to truly understand the brilliance of this intervention, we really have to unpack the science of tribology.
Tribology, that's the study of friction and lubrication, right?
Exactly. Friction, wear, and lubrication. We have to ask, why specifically grade 2 grease? What is actually happening at a molecular level inside those hydraulic pins?
Right, because an EX250C hat is not a delicate instrument. It exerts tens of thousands of pounds of hydraulic shear force on its pivot points.
Yeah, the rheology of the situation, how matter flows under pressure, is critical. The grease inside those joints has one job, which is to maintain a microscopic film between 2 pieces of steel that are basically trying to crush each other.
That is immense pressure.
Huge. And industrial grease is essentially a sponge holding oil. It consists of a base oil, which does the actual lubricating, and a thickener.
Like a polymer.
Right, usually a metallic soap like a lithium complex, which acts as the polymer matrix holding the oil in place.
Okay, so the National Lubricating Grease Institute, the NLGI, they grade these greases based on their consistency, right?
Yes, exactly.
So when we talk about grade 2, we are talking about a very specific viscosity profile.
Exactly. If you use a grease with a lower viscosity, let's say grade 0 or 1, the sheer mechanical pressure of the excavator moving tons of earth will physically squeeze the lubricant right out of the joint.
Because it's too thin.
Right, it's too thin. The polymer matrix just collapses under the sheer stress. The protective film ruptures, and you are left with bare metal grinding on bare metal.
And that metallic friction generates immense heat, causing the steel to expand and eventually seize up entirely.
Which is exactly that groaning sound the workers were hearing just before the stall.
Wow. But on the flip side, what if the manufacturer in Japan sent out a highly viscous grease? Say a grade 3 or 4, assuming the machine needs maximum protection for heavy loads.
Well, that creates a totally different failure cascade. A grease that is too thick simply won't flow into the micro crevices of the articulation joints.
It just sits on the outside.
Right. It clumps on the exterior. The friction points remain completely dry on the inside, even though the outside of the pin looks heavily lubricated.
So grade 2 grease hits the exact required viscosity index. It's thick enough to withstand the catastrophic shear forces, but smooth enough to flow and maintain that hydrodynamic film inside the joint.
Exactly. But the viscosity index is really only half of the equation here.
What's the other half?
The field officer's tacit knowledge outpaces the distant engineer because he is factoring in environmental contamination.
Ah, right. The source explicitly mentioned that the terrain, it says it was dusty and humid.
This is crucial. A laboratory in Tokyo does not have airborne silica dust blowing around,
Right.
but an estate project in India absolutely does.
And dust is the absolute enemy of heavy machinery. It's not just dirt. It's an abrasive. It's essentially microscopic sand.
Exactly. If the grease in those joints is slightly too tacky, or if it lacks the proper additives to repel water in a highly humid environment, the ambient dust binds to the thickener.
Oh, I see.
The grease stops acting as a lubricant entirely and physically transforms into a lapping compound.
So it becomes like liquid sandpaper.
Precisely. It begins to machine the steel away from the inside.
That's terrifying. So the field officer recognized this. By rubbing the grease between his fingers, he actually felt the grit. He felt the breakdown of the polymer matrix.
Right, he knew the existing lubricant had become abrasive. And he knew the environmental conditions demanded the specific rheological properties of fresh grade 2 grease.
He wasn't just diagnosing a broken machine. He was diagnosing a localized environmental mismatch. That is the true power of embodied contextual knowledge.
Absolutely.
But let's return to the humans on the worksite for a second. The workers are standing there, and they're holding this directive from a logistics officer.
Yeah, a guy who shouldn't be giving mechanical orders.
Right. Why did fear flicker in their eyes? Were they afraid of the machine breaking further, or afraid of following an unofficial chain of command?
Well, mostly the hierarchy. Think about how terrifying it is to follow an unorthodox order at work when you know you might take the blame if it fails.
Exactly. If they follow his orders and the massive hydraulic arm drops and snaps the chassis, they are the ones holding the bag. The official machinery will blame them for taking orders outside the chain of command.
But the field officer overcomes that institutional terror
How does he do it?
through tone and absolute epistemic authority. In moments of crisis, human beings are highly attuned to confidence.
Interesting.
When the official hierarchy is paralyzed, a power vacuum opens up. The field officer's tone, which was steady and precise, overrides their fear of positional authority.
He essentially acts as a human shield for their liability.
Exactly. His confidence signals that he is assuming the risk, which gives the workers the psychological safety they need to act.
Okay, so the moment of truth arrives. Theory, viscosity indexes, and epistemic authority are put to the ultimate test. The workers obey.
They steady the bucket.
Right, they purge the degraded abrasive grease from the joints, and they apply the fresh grade 2 grease. The operator climbs back into the cab and tries again.
And you get this dramatic mechanical awakening.
Yes, the heavy diesel engine roars, the hydraulic fluid pressurizes with a hiss, and the bucket just lifts smoothly. It cuts through the mud with absolute ease. The beast is tamed.
Notice the immediate shift in the social dynamic of the worksite, too.
Right, the workers' fear is instantly replaced by respect.
Because they just witnessed a man transcend the limitations of his title. He solved an impossible problem through pure applied mastery.
And this leads to what I consider the most fascinating behavioral choice in the entire narrative. Because you have to contrast the loud, violent awakening of the machine with the quiet, understated exit of the field officer.
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast.
So what does this all mean? The guy has just saved the company a week of downtime, tens of thousands of dollars, a massive logistical nightmare. In modern corporate culture, this is the exact moment you weaponize your success.
Oh, absolutely. You document the win.
Right. You make sure management knows you solved the crisis. But he doesn't stick around to gloat, take credit, or wait for management to applaud him.
He just vanished.
The source literally says he simply dusts his hands, turns, and walks away, disappearing into the background. It's like the ultimate Irish goodbye.
An Irish goodbye executed as an act of industrial heroics.
Exactly. But why does he do it? It runs completely counter to the visibility-obsessed culture we are all trained in. We're taught to build our personal brand. Walking away seems almost alien.
Well, this raises an important question about the nature of true problem solvers.
Okay, go on.
Those operating at the highest levels of tacit knowledge are often driven by intrinsic rather than extrinsic motivation.
Meaning they don't care about the reward.
Right. The field officer wasn't motivated by ego or the prospect of a bonus or a promotion. The machine was broken, the work was halted, and he possessed the specific knowledge to restore order.
So the restoration of order was the reward itself.
Precisely. But by walking away, he inadvertently creates an aura of mastery that is far more powerful than if he had demanded recognition.
How so?
Well, if he had stayed, gloated, and demanded recognition from the site managers, he would have just anchored himself back into the standard corporate hierarchy.
He would just be an employee seeking validation from his superiors.
Exactly. But by vanishing, he elevates himself above that hierarchy. He becomes slightly mythological in the eyes of the workers.
He becomes a symbol of pure competence, entirely unbothered by the bureaucratic need for validation. That is so cool.
It is. But, while he vanished, the consequences of his actions are just about to collide with the very official machinery he bypassed.
Oh yes, the aftermath. This part is great. So minutes later, word of the initial stall has finally reached the upper echelons of the site management. They rush to the sector, fully expecting a disaster zone.
They're probably mentally calculating the delays, drafting the urgent emails to Delhi and Japan.
Exactly. They arrive and they find a perfectly serene, functioning worksite. The EX-250C TAT is moving Earth as if nothing ever happened.
The cognitive dissonance for that management team must have been staggering.
Oh, I can't even imagine. The official reporting system told them there was a catastrophic failure. The procedural guidelines dictate that such a failure requires a week-long intervention by certified engineers.
Yet their own eyes are showing them a fully operational machine. The map does not match the territory.
So they demand an explanation, and I just chuckle every time I read this part. The wide-eyed workers, still reeling from what they just witnessed, tell management that an officer came, handled it, and left, quote, in a jiffy, like he vanished into thin air.
They describe him like a mechanical superhero.
Right. It's the birth of a worksite legend in real time. The management team is utterly bewildered. But then there is the chairman of the project.
Yes. The chairman is present among the panicked management team.
Right. He is standing there. He listens quietly to the workers describe this phantom officer, and his eyes narrow. He realizes exactly who the unnamed officer is.
He knows it was the logistics guy.
He knows, but he makes a highly calculated decision. He chooses to let the mystery linger. He doesn't point him out.
Which is an exceptional deployment of strategic ambiguity.
Strategic ambiguity. What's that?
In organizational theory, strategic ambiguity is the deliberate use of omission to allow multiple interpretations of an event. And that can often serve a greater cultural purpose than strict factual clarity.
But I have to ask you this. If you are the chairman and you know who saved your company a week of delays and massive costs, why on earth wouldn't you point him out and give him a bonus right there? By keeping silent, isn't he basically failing to optimize his human resources?
That is the standard Taylorist corporate instinct, right? To commodify and institutionalize every single win.
Yeah, that's what we're all taught to do.
But consider the alternative. The psychological brilliance of the chairman's silence is that he recognizes the legend is more valuable than the transaction.
What do you mean?
If the chairman names him, hands him a bonus, and says, "Great job, Dave from logistics," the magic instantly dies.
The event is processed by the official machinery.
Exactly. It becomes a transaction.
Yeah.
A problem was solved, a worker was paid, and the system remains fundamentally unchanged. The rigid silos persist.
Wow. So the transaction basically neutralizes the inspiration.
That's it, exactly. By remaining silent, the chairman allows the narrative to shift from a transaction to folklore.
And folklore is powerful.
Very. Anthropologists who study corporate cultures note that myths and legends serve a vital function in shaping group behavior. The legend of the unnamed officer who bypassed protocol to achieve the impossible begins to percolate through the worksite.
It creates an aspirational standard for every worker there. It whispers this radical idea to every laborer, operator, and foreman on the mud: you are permitted to be competent outside your job description.
It completely shatters the learned helplessness we talked about earlier.
The chairman realizes that a culture of quiet, competent problem-solving is being born organically.
And formalizing the win, dragging it into the light of bureaucratic recognition, would just kill it.
The unnamed officer becomes an archetype that any worker can project themselves onto. The chairman sacrifices a momentary commendation to cultivate a lasting culture of resilience.
It really is a masterclass in executive leadership.
And the source confirms that this wasn't just a fleeting moment. This single fleeting event rippled out and became a lasting philosophy on the site.
The core takeaway here is just profound.
It really is. Let's distill the source's final thoughts. The dad became a legend in whispers. He proved that true authority comes from wisdom, clarity, and the courage to act, not from titles or uniforms.
He saved the project, proving practical, embodied knowledge can utterly outpace the official machinery of the world.
If we synthesize this entire narrative arc, it's a story of how rigid structures, titles, management, certified engineers often fail in the face of immediate, messy reality.
The mud, the stalled hydraulics, the silica dust.
Exactly. Real-world friction does not consult the organizational chart, and adaptable, embodied knowledge is the ultimate safeguard.
I want to emphasize that phrase you used, the courage to act.
Yeah, why is that so important?
Because having the knowledge, understanding the rheology of grade 2 grease and the abrasive qualities of silica dust is only potential energy.
Right.
The workers might have had an inkling that the grease was failing, but the field officer had the courage to act.
He had the bravery to step out of his designated role, face down the liability matrix, and take personal responsibility for the physical outcome of the machine.
Knowing the answer is useless without the audacity to execute it. It is the triumph of epistemic authority over de jure paralysis.
That distinction is just so crucial. So, to recap this amazing journey, we went from a paralyzed, muddy work site, suffocating under protocol, waiting for experts in Japan.
To the intricate physics of hydraulic shear stress and industrial tribology.
Right, to a field officer rubbing grease between his fingers, stepping out of a silo. And then to a roaring engine, a quiet, egoless exit, and a quietly smiling chairman who used strategic ambiguity to forge a worksite myth.
It is such a powerful reminder that our hyper-specialized world is often far more fragile than it appears.
It really is.
And that the ultimate safeguard is always applied human mastery.
Beautifully said. I want to leave you, the listener, with a final, lingering thought to mull over or explore on your own. We all operate within our own versions of the official machinery.
We all do.
We all have organizational charts, standard operating procedures, and deeply ingrained silos in our careers and even in our personal lives. How often do you feel you aren't qualified on paper to fix a problem, even when you know exactly what needs to be done?
Happens all the time.
Think about the massive, seemingly immovable excavators in your own life right now. The big projects, the stalled relationships, the organizational hurdles where the gears are just grinding metal on metal.
Right.
What if the solution to those deadlocked situations doesn't require a highly paid, certified expert from 1,000 miles away?
What if it's right in front of you?
Exactly. What if all it requires is finding your own version of grade 2 grease, that one small, unglamorous foundational adjustment, and having the quiet, audacious courage to step out of your lane and apply it yourself?